feel like I need to, ask you about the fact that you don't have kids. So you are child free. And I'd love to know where you are on the spectrum of kind of, not having never wanted them to, not being able to have had them or to ended up not having them. What has been your journey in terms of you not having kids? I would love to hear the story.
Well, it's such an interesting question because to me, wanting to have kids is sort of active, proactive thing. Today, it didn't used to be, obviously, like it was the default by necessity position for women. Obviously, that's no longer the case. So for me, the decision to have kids, it's like the decision to become a doctor, and nobody says to me, why aren't you a doctor? They say, why are you a literary agent? Like it's a sort of weird question to me to be asked about something you're not doing. It's like
Yes.
rather than something you like, I totally think the question of what made you decide to have kids to someone who has kids is absolutely fascinating. But to ask someone who doesn't have them why they don't seems to me an odd kind of question. So
It's so true.
it's a little bit like it's sort of I would never I'm not religious, but I don't really think of myself as an atheist. I think of myself as a person who isn't religious. Like if I was religious, I would say that. So to me, it's just a weird framework, but we are asked that all of the time, people who are child free. But I honestly never even it just never occurred to me that I would want them. And I don't think I spent loads of time thinking about it at all. It was like I never actively wanted them. So then it wasn't a question. And I think
Right.
I never, as a little kid, I was never one of the kids who had dolls and prams. Like it just wasn't for me. And like for a lot of people, it's such a big decision one way or the other. And I honestly don't think for me it really was. And I think also I live in central London. Most of my friends in their 40s and 50s don't have children. So actually, like there's a lot of people, and it's probably because of the scenarios that I've surrounded myself in, and it would be different in different places. So I've never felt that pressure that I think you can feel as a woman if all of your friends and all of your community and everyone around you is does have children. I can imagine that makes it again a bit more difficult to think of. And of course, I have plenty of friends with kids who are great, but there's always been so many other people around me in my life who don't that again I just don't think it's been a huge question for me.
It's so interesting what you said then about it's been a non-issue because you've never wanted it. And, like you were saying about you've never wanted to be a doctor. I mean, I've also never wanted to be a doctor, but I don't go around justifying why
Yeah,
I don't want to be a freaking
right.
doctor. And
It's like, yeah. Or
it's
why I
not,
don't live in Wales or something. It's sort of
yeah,
like nobody asks you about things you're not doing apart from this one thing that you get asked
yeah.
about all the time. It's like, but it's like anything else I'm not doing. I'm just not doing that.
Totally. And it's this, this makes me think about the regret question. Won't you regret it? Well, you know, it's like saying, but aren't you worried you'll regret not being a doctor?
But you know, I
I
totally
mean,
don't buy into that sliding doors way of life where you're like, everything you do every single day takes, of course it does. Like, of course, what are decisions we make every single day, who we pick up the phone to, who we go and see, every single thing we do affects the future. But I don't really buy into there's all of these different paths because there's a million different paths at
yeah,
any point of your life. Having children or not having them is one, but so is who you happen to meet at the bus stop today. It's
totally, totally. It's funny. And this is actually to do with, I mean, I'm obviously single too. And somebody asked me literally the other day if I ever was worried about, being on my own when I'm older. It's that classic.
what
And
a joy.
but I was just like, no, I don't. And it's something that perplexes me. And I understand that people think, to some extent, we've got to sort of think about the future, blah, blah, blah. But also, there is an argument to say that I just live in the freaking moment
Yeah.
and I live for the day I'm in now. I have no fucking idea what is going to happen to me in my life over the next 10, 20 years, or if I'm even going to get there. And so, no, it's not something that I worry about or agonize over because why would I? It's like, and it's the same with
Yeah.
the kids thing. Like, you know, are you worried you're going to regret having kids? Well, no, it's not. It kind of the reason it sort of perplexes me is because I don't focus on the things in life that I haven't done, that I might have done, that I could have
Yeah.
done. But there are always going to be a gazillion
Yeah.
different things that any one of us could have done or could have
At
not done
any
with our lives.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the point
Totally.
of obsessing about what you haven't done and what might be or what you might regret? It's such a funny
And
one.
there's this, have you heard of, there's this concept called the hedonic treadmill in psychology, which
Yes, I
is,
have heard of
it's
it.
like, I will be happy when. So
Oh my
it's like,
God.
I talk about it with authors a lot. It's like, I'll be happy when I get an agent. Oh no, I'll be happy when I get a book deal. Oh no, I'll be happy when my book comes out. I'll be happy when my book's bestseller. And it's like, your happiness can't be tied to those things. And we have this path that was laid out that, traditional middle class path that's like, you go to university, you'll be happy when you graduate that. Then you'll find a husband, you'll be happy when you do that. Then you'll be happy when you buy your first home. Then you'll be happy when you have your kid. Then you'll be happy when your kid graduates. And it's this made up, if your happiness is tied to steps in the future, which are by definition out of your control because they're in the future, you will never find happiness. The only way you can find happiness is being happy in the present moment. That's the only thing any of us have. So, but also like the idea that, you know, if you, the idea that in the future, somehow you'll not be happy because you don't have any children in your old age or you don't have a partner in your old age. It's like, if you do have children and a partner, now there's no guarantee of what's going to be happening in your old age. I mean, sadly, relationships break down, people die, children leave home. There's not sort of a guarantee of happiness anyway in your old age. And also the world is totally, I think it's so hard to judge what life is like for people in their 80s today, what it will be like when we're in our 80s, because the world is completely different. I'm constantly trying to tell my mum this about tattoos, because I've got a lot of tattoos, and she's just like, but when you're my age, it's going to be awful. And I'm like, it won't be, mum, because when I'm your age, everyone else will have tattoos because
Yeah.
we've got tattoos now. When nobody your age does, because it wasn't a trend that everyone's doing, but it really is. So it won't be the same. It won't just be me tattooed with a load of untattooed 80-year-old women. It will be a whole sea of us.
Exactly. Just Rachel Mills with all her tattoos. Shame on you.
No one else. And it's the same. I think that because there are a lot more women choosing to be child-free today or child-free not by choice, there are going to be far more women in their 80s when we're 80 who don't have children. So the landscape of community will be different. And the way our lives are set up is different now. Friendship communities and things like that are much more important to people. And I love all of these stories of like older people, particularly older women, like buying a whole village together. And like,
Yes.
I've definitely got big plans to get like all my friends get a massive chateau in like, the Alps or something, or the south of France, start saving for it when we're about 60, move into it, get some hot nurses to look after us. That's my
Totally.